JB here. Hope everybody's doing outstanding. February 12th, 9 a.m. on this fine CPI Wednesday. Talk quick about the market, some names I'm looking at. Go from there. Markets were hanging in there. It looked like we are going to have a green open, but the much anticipated CPI data came out and it was hotter than expectations. It's hard to kind of spin it in a positive fashion. Year over year increased, well, at least estimates were a 3.1% increase. It was up 3.3%. And then you look at the core CPI, 4.4% versus 0.3% estimates. Just not a good thing. And it's the I always try and find the silver lining, and the silver lining is the Fed has put the brakes on cutting rates, right? So if they had cut rates uh, at their last meeting, I mean, then probably a situation where we would have a much larger sell-off. So I always use the analogy or sometimes it's good to like pull off the Band-Aid, right? So uh, I'm sure there's going to be more conversation now around, the tariffs. There's going to be chatter around, is the Fed going to start raising rates? This egg situation, right? I mean, it just keeps picking up because people pick up stories and it just makes a great comparison, right? It's easy for people to understand when you say, hey, egg prices are rising, limit the amount of eggs you can get at supermarkets, things like that. So all that narrative is going to play into the FUD, so the fear, uncertainty, and doubts for the market. Some of the best days are reversal days. I don't know if we get that here today. I hopefully we find some support. I what did I put on the watch? It's 5.9. There's areas I had on here. Let's see if I can pull them up. Which big spots, and some of it you look at where we found support last time. So 597 and change was last Tuesday. 594 and change was the Monday before that. Uh, and then you start looking at that 589 area, and that's the lower low scenario, right? So don't want to see a lower low on the SPY. We've been doing lower highs, lower lows since middle of January. I think if we break that lower low, then we start looking at a situation where we get down to the 570s at least on the SPY. Hope that doesn't happen. And we'll see how things play out here. Earnings have been great, so that kind of puts uh, I guess helps with things. And then not only that, you take a look over the last, and I've been saying for the last couple of days, some of the Magnificent Seven outside of Apple and Meta yesterday, and outside of Meta for the last 16 sessions, the Magnificent Seven names have been taken on the chin, right? And then despite that, the markets have been holding up and somewhat resilient. So is that a rotation? So it'd be nice to see some kind of rotation at some point, but certainly not the data that I wanted to see. And then we get PPI tomorrow, so maybe we get a mixed bag. And tomorrow, the PPI is kind of more of the forward-looking number because that's when the producers get it, right? And so you won't see that inflation passed on to consumers for months from then. So we'll see how that all plays. And then we have retail sales on Friday. So certainly interesting. So 600 handle, I would love to see it close back over the 600 handle, but for now, we'll see how things play out. If things get crazy in the morning, we'll see. 594 maybe is a spot I'd start getting hedges. We'll want to see if that holds. All right, so that's the overall market. Small caps still can't get their footing. IWM, despite the markets closing somewhat green yesterday or flat, still can't get their footing. Hopefully one of these days it does. Now let me do individual names. First, I'll just start with iRobot. I was talking, I didn't really get a chance to put on the watch list yesterday. It's just a name I've watched over the years. If you followed, I don't even know how many years I've been trading in and out of it. Some of it, and if you look at some of the people who write these short pieces, I think it's Spruce Point Capital, who always comes out short on some names that I've been in all over the years. When I first came upon them, I think one of them was iRobot, and the stock iRobot went at $40, and he was saying it was going down to $10. And this many years ago. Obviously, well, now it looks right, but it was 100, 150, 90, 80. Well, it was, unless he held it short for that period of time, and paid the interest on it, there's no way he made money on it. But it's always been a divisive name. And here it is. I think at a valuation, it trades less than a third times its revenues. It's in the midst of a turnaround. It has a decent short interest, and some of the reason that it trades down here too is its debt. And then I think the regulatory issues that have kind of plagued it, especially with its possible acquisition by Amazon, those are kind of getting removed. So I think there's a lot of reasons why maybe it heads higher here. So I'm not loading the boat. I got some March spec calls. If it gets over 1050 or so, I might look for some more calls to play for some kind of squeeze. Now, every time it's broke 925, it's got to 1050 pretty quick. If it breaks 1050, I think it heads up to 13, and then that'll be the next big spot. But that's kind of the bull case there on iRobot. I'm not saying it's the most fundamentally sound company, but they've cut a lot of their expenses. If you go back and look at the founder of iRobot, they spent an insane amount on R&D, and some of the R&D was on initiatives that never came to fruition for the company, right? And I remember one of the times I was along the company, they were coming out with their robot lawnmower. Um, some of the bull case used to be on iRobot, used to be around their data, right? I mean, oh my gosh, how many homes do you have mapped out that you can sell that data to? Where the people spend their time? Where's the most dirtiest? How can you cater that? And then you look at what Amazon's buyout would have done for them. They have to integrate for the home, right? That was the next home automation, being able to cater ads to people who maybe their kitchen's more dirty than not. So you can cater, send them ads for that stuff. Or, there's a lot of cool things that could have been a great partnership. But anyway, I can go on and rant for a while, but that's some of the thought process why I like iRobot. So that's iRobot. And then some of the names, and it wasn't even some names I'm in, but a lot of names that have been winners over the last couple of weeks took it on the chin yesterday, especially in the quantum AI space. But the names, especially the names that that have done pretty well over the last couple of weeks for me, SSYS, TeleDoc, um, TripAdvisor, all took it on the chin yesterday. Teladoc down 6%, but still flat on the week from its Monday rally. Uh, Not going to add anything or sell anything here. I still think it's going to trade higher in the coming weeks, but we'll be patient here. Thankful to have made some nice coin on this one already. So riding those free. Well, outside of the 20 strikes added. Same with SSYS. A little disappointing here. Still have a potential bull flag setting up. So it was a 9 and change all the way up to 13. You do the math, that's $4. So I could see it trading up near 15 or so in the coming weeks. So I'll continue to hold those. The same with TripAdvisor. I was talking on a rant yesterday afternoon. It was like the travel names were taking on a chin. Expedia, which was on a big rally from its post earnings, had a great earnings, and then the post earnings move was all the way into the 200s, and then it reversed course. I don't know if that's some of just sympathy move, but I still love TripAdvisor here. And that brings me to Roku, and just disappointing here. Roku all the way up to 91 on Monday, and then has done nothing. Just I wouldn't say a complete sell off, but if you look at the chart, it's kind of chopping around. So you could say it's still range bound, but just disappointing. Would love to have seen it break out pre earnings, but now it looks like I'll have to hold the calls into earnings tomorrow. Not going to go on a rant on Roku here. Then some other names here. And Intel, it's not a name, and it's number one, it's not a sexy name, right? And I always talk about AMD being like the stepchild of NVIDIA. Intel is like the stepchild of AMD, right? It's sorry if you're a stepchild. I'm not trying to be derogatory towards that. It's just the best way I can explain it. You look at Intel, just hasn't been, it's been rough, and the business has been horrible. They've been trying to turn around. If you look at the business, though, the sum of parts, it's like a $40 value at stock at trading at $22 right now. Well, it's gapping higher. And then if you have this America First agenda, does that bode well for Intel? There's some M&A rumors, supposedly, and you've seen some spikes. I don't know, it was a couple Fridays ago, there was reports, and then those were refuted come Monday. It just looks like an interesting name on a risk reward basis. You start looking at the March 25 or 24 calls, I'm like, wow, that looks interesting. So I don't know if it'll dip here. It gapped all the way up to 2240, closed at 2097. Don't be surprised if I add some spec calls on this stepsister of AMD, stepsister of NVIDIA, stepsister. All right, so that's Intel. Lemonade, so disappointing here too. I mean, down 13%, no news, no catalyst. It's got a huge short interest. So there's people who think this stock is zero, probably less than zero if you ask the shorts. I think it's complete reverse, but came up to its 50-day moving average 3807, and then yesterday just it gapped lower and then just melted, and then at the end of the day, just it was like 3 o'clock. Someone hit the sell button at $35, and it just boom, all the way down to 3250. Still like this one for a squeeze. They have earnings in 2 weeks. The premiums have come down on those, so I might look for some spec lottos into earnings now that the premiums are a little lower, but certainly disappointing there. And then last but not least, I would say last but not least here is Arista Networks. And last night about 6 o'clock, all of a sudden it just went from 118 or so, 117 to change, and next thing you know, it's a 111 on some after hour action. I looked, it's tough to find a catalyst. I don't see any analyst downgrades. You see Cisco, which is a competing company. They have switches as well. They came out with a press release, but it was like 3:40 in the afternoon in regards to a new switch. I don't know if that was the pressure, and it's still down here at 110 in the pre-market. The good thing is, or at least Cisco reports earnings after the close, so there might be some kind of sympathy move if there's some comments in there. So that might help here, but obviously you're gonna need a large move here for my calls. Disappointing, but what are you gonna do? Trying to think of some other names here. If we do start breaking support, 594 and change probably be the first spot. Service now, I mean, it's already down from its earnings, but maybe there's some continuation similar to what we've seen in Deckers, right? So don't be surprised. That would probably be one of the names I'd look for some spec hedge puts on. Uh, MDB, which I'm somewhat bullish on, but these names, it doesn't matter if I'm bullish if the market falls. So MDB seems to be more sensitive to the market. So that one could maybe trades down into the 260s or so on weakness. Snow is another name, which is again great earnings, but similarly, it seems to come under pressure when the market falls. So that could be another name I'll be watching for possible put hedges. But I'm gonna be patient because I said it on the watch this morning and countless times. Some of the best days are these reversal days. And I'm not saying we're going to go red to green here today, but if the market can find a bid, maybe the market starts pricing in, hey, that's it. Fed has been pretty good at holding pat on rates. Market has already priced in little or no rate cuts this year, and then now that's all baked in, and now we go from there. All right, folks, have a great day. I'll be back rock and roll.